It's Sal Pal Friday on the Sports Bash. Sal Palantonio, ESPN, will join us to take a look at the big matchup. Eagles-Commanders. You know, the last time they made the playoffs the same year was 1992. If the Commanders win, they take a step towards making that happen again. If they lose, they could have two teams chasing them from the backside. We'll see how it all unfolds down in Washington and right here on 97.3 ESPN. ESPN National NFL correspondent Sal Palantonio, he was on the call on ESPN Radio's broadcast of the Eagles and the Steelers. And Sal Pal, the Eagles dominated that game against the Steelers, but they did it in a way we really haven't seen this year. They threw the ball all over the yard. Were you surprised from your broadcast perch on what you were watching?
Well, happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you, Mike Gill, and everybody on the Sports Bash and your great radio station, and, of course, the Johnny G and the Griner team, Ocean City, New Jersey. Thank you for all their support here all year long. And I think everybody was happy. I don't think people were surprised. The word was out that they had to fix the passing game. We heard all week that they were going to practice on fixing the passing game, and they came out and started throwing the ball to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. You know, and throwing it against the Pittsburgh Steelers is not easy to do. But they wore that Steelers defense down, Mike Gill, and demoralized them in a way that I've never seen a Steelers team demoralized.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the week because they sent the big gun into Philly last week. Sal Powell was on hand all week long in Philly, so the mothership thought it was a big enough deal to send you in there to find out what was going on with what A.J. Brown said the week before. Did it feel all cleared up by the end of the week, and this thing is now ready to take another big step forward?
I think it is cleared up, Mike. I really do. I'm not sure the extent of the personal detachment. I won't even use the word animosity because I don't think there was animosity. I think there was sort of a detachment on a football level. But to me, I think they fixed it clearly. I don't think any of it is phony. I think it's true that they have talked it out. They said they did. They all talked about the fact that they had awkward and hard conversations and difficult conversations with one another. And what does that suggest? That suggests that they had stuff to iron out. You don't have difficult and awkward and tough conversations between your teammates or your coworkers unless you have stuff to iron out. So clearly they had to talk it out, and they did. And I think the results were overwhelmingly positive in that game in the way in which they manhandled the Steelers. And this week I was just there. I just left NovaCare, just got off the Walt Whitman Bridge. You're down in Ocean Casino, and I'm on the Walt Whitman Bridge. That was funny. I was listening to you. I could get you a little bit, Mike, as I was rolling into New Jersey. And I was at NovaCare today, and they worked hard in practice today. They really did. I mean, if you listen to Nick Sirianni's comments today, he said, I hope we have a good day of practice. I hope we have a great day of practice.
He was very short today, it looked like, early.
Oh, yes. Very laser focused. In fact, just to give you a little inside baseball, we asked to interview Nick Sirianni for a piece that we did on the defense today that's running on Sunday NFL Countdown. It's going to be a really good piece. And he was too busy to talk to us one-on-one, and that's normal on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. It's completely normal. And I said to the PR department, well, here's some questions that I'm going to ask in the press conference. And when he's given a heads up like that, or any head coaches, they go into some specifics or, you know, they kind of lay out the answer in a way to suggest they thought about it. Sirianni was having none of it. It was all business, the entire press conference. I think he was just, I don't know, I'm going to speculate, Mike. I would just wonder if he was not happy with practice this week in any way, shape, or form, and maybe just wanted to say, we got to lock it down. But Friday is their intense practice. That's their red zone practice. And it's particularly important to play Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. Cliff Kingsbury in that offense are very, very good in the red zone. Jaden Daniels has the most rushing yards in the red zone of any quarterback.
Well, a lot of the questions,
not named Jalen Hurts,
right? I want to get into them in a minute because a lot of the questions in this press conference that looked like were A.J. Brown related, and he didn't seem like he was all that interested in discussing A.J. Brown or any potential injury there because he did open up a little bit more, particularly the questions you asked about the defense, Vic Fangio, the ways that defense has grown, which I think is interesting because right now when we look at the Eagles, they have all the star power on offense, but is this team led by their defense?
It's led by their defense. If you go on my Instagram, Sal Pal ESPN on Instagram, Mike, I point out that since week six, since basically 2 weeks after they fixed the defense during the bye after getting bum rushed by the Bucs down in Tampa, since week 6, this is important. The Eagles lead the NFL since week 6 in points allowed, yards allowed, passing yards allowed, sacks, forced fumbles, and 3 and outs. That is basically the royal flush. You're in the casino. There's a royal flush for you, Mike Gill, in NFL defensive statistics. That's how you win 10 games in a row. I mean, you're up and down on the offense. You're running the ball. You're throwing the ball. There's kumbaya. There's acrimony, whatever it is. That's been the one constant is Vic Fangio and building that defense. And remember, they were 28th in the league, Mike. 28th. And now they're first in the league. That's how you win 10 in a row.
Yeah. Well, and, it's funny. We've been kind of talking all year, you, me, and everybody out there. Do they have the pass rusher? Do they have that guy? Here we are in week 15, 16. They have the best defense in the league for the most part, statistically speaking. Are we convinced that their pass rush can take them to the promised land? I was laughing. I just got my email from New Orleans. We'll be there at 59 in New Orleans, whether the Eagles make it or not. But is that pass rush enough to have them accompany us to New Orleans?
Yeah, I think, the question marks have been somewhat answered. We'll see. I think the thing about it is Jalen Carter. So Jalen Carter has played in 84% of the snaps. That's more than Fletcher Cox ever played. That's more than all defensive linemen in the NFC. He's number one. 84% of the snaps. Mike, he played 48% of the snaps last year. 48. And it's due to the conditioning program that Vic Fangio instituted right from the get-go. It was all about conditioning. They finished poorly last year. They ran out of gas. And this team is in shape to finish the deal. Now, Carter, believe it or not, so he's played 772 snaps. He's been double-teamed 272 times, more than any other defensive lineman in the league. So when my stats guy gave me that this morning, I said to him, not facetiously, but most sincerely, how many times was he held this year? Give me that number. I want to know the number. How many times was he held, and how many times was holding actually called?
That's a good pull there because we were talking earlier about, when we think about great defenses, you generally think of the star edge rusher. But Chris Jones, Kansas City, Aaron Donald with the Rams, there have been interior guys who have been the stars of some of these defenses. And I wonder if, the way Carter ended last year has not allowed us to think that he can be the star of a defense. Is he the star of the defense?
Yes, he is. I think it's two people. I think it's Jalen Carter and Quinyon Mitchell. And what Mitchell has done, and you saw it in the Thursday night game against Washington, so unbelievably completely, he takes away your number one wide receiver. Terry McLaurin in that game had 2 targets for 1 catch because he was erased. He found himself in the Q zone, the twilight zone of defensive backs. Where wide receivers go to disappear. This is the new version of Revis Island. It's the Q zone. And, not for nothing, Mike, on this show and everybody who will have me on, I have been saying Quinyon Mitchell is your defensive rookie of the year.
Well, he's the favorite now. He's the favorite now. He took over.
I heard that.
Yep. Speaking of favorites, right now, you take a look at the Super Bowl favorites. We're talking about, is this team a Super Bowl team or not? You take a look at those Super Bowl favorites, and right now, plus 375 Philadelphia. The Bills, they're the favorite, plus 375. The Eagles are plus 400. Have the Eagles jumped over Detroit, and is Minnesota a factor?
I think Minnesota is a factor. We have a great piece in the matchup show. Airs tomorrow, 8:30 ESPN 2. And Darius Butler does a great piece on the Minnesota defense. So, we talk about the fact that the Vikings with Sam Darnold and that receiving core, they can score points. That defense is very, very good. They're third in the league in points allowed. So they're very good. Eagles are number one. Detroit's right up there. And then it's the Vikings. So to me, you got to account for Minnesota, no question about it. But can they come into Philly in January and beat the Eagles?
They might not have to.
Yeah, I get it. But they might.
Yeah, well, right now it's an odd situation. You could be 15-2 and be a number 2 seed. I mean, that's unprecedented to win 15 games and not be able to be the 1 seed. But if Minnesota wins out, Philly wins out, I think Minnesota has the tiebreaker over them. And if Detroit wins out and Philly wins out, Detroit would get the tiebreaker over Philly. So you need a little help to get that 1 seed. But it would be an interesting game, Minnesota, because I think you're right. Their defense is probably better right now than Detroit's defense.
I think so, because the injuries have decimated Detroit. But nobody's better than this Eagles defense.
Well, you watched them up close against a good Pittsburgh defense. Were you, I don't want to say not amazed, but were you impressed by the way they were able to move the ball against Pittsburgh in person?
I was so impressed that it changed my view of the football team. I was so impressed that now I just think if you put it in the hands of the offensive line and Saquon Barkley, you can pretty much do anything you want.
Mm-hmm. Sal Pal, you take a look at this game. 4 weeks ago they played, all right,
Yep.
Philly and Washington. What's different about these two teams 4 weeks later?
I think for the Eagles, the defense has gotten better incrementally every single week, steadily. Communication is great. Command and control is great. Tackling is very good. People are double teaming Jalen Carter. That's allowing Nolan Smith, of all people, to be a standout pass rusher. Amazing.
Yeah. Well,
Josh Sweat getting his numbers up. I just think they're at all three levels. They challenge you, and that's different. I think for Washington, I don't know, Mike. They appear to be getting better in some very specific areas in the running game, like their outside zone read run game. But the number one rusher among quarterbacks since week 12 is Jaden Daniels. They have relied a lot on Jaden Daniels as a runner. So I think, it's maybe a little bit of fool's gold there offensively. If you account for Jaden Daniels as a runner, if you keep him in the pocket like the Eagles did last time, you can win the game.
Well, he's 3,000 yards passing, 500 yards rushing. Only three other rookies have done that. Only one other this year. That's Lamar Jackson. So you got a guy who's been playing, at a pretty high level this year. The Eagles did a good job of keeping him in check. Sal Paolantonio on a Sal Pal Friday. We know a lot of talk nationally all over has been Saquon Barkley, the record. Are they talking a lot about that in the locker room in NovaCare, or is this 1 seed Super Bowl or bust? Where does that record kind of resonate with this crew?
I hate to disappoint you, Mike, but it's not about Saquon Barkley. It just is not.
Hey, listen, I'm with you. I don't care if he gets this record or not. I want to see you couldn't live with yourself if he got hurt in this game. And we see what's going on with Detroit. You cannot worry about getting him this record.
No, I agree with you. Don't push it. If it comes naturally, fine. But definitely don't push it. Don't have him out there just to get the record. That's, of course, I think, completely clear by the way they're approaching it. This is a tough game against a very difficult opponent, and an opponent that knows you. Last 5 minutes of the game 4 weeks ago, it was a 2-point game, Mike. 2-point game in Philly.
Yep. They had the lead, and then Barkley,
Things have changed. They went through Barkley in that game. This time, They're going to go through the passing game, and you can throw on Washington. That's one, but you got to do it there. It's going to be cold. So the deep passing game will lack that kind of precision because it's cold. You're going to have to earn every yard. So that's one. So you can't turn the ball over. That's a number one key. No question about it. It always is. But in this game specifically, if you control the ball, you win the game because you have too much firepower and strength for Washington to beat you. If you turn the ball over twice, like you did against Pittsburgh, on the road against Washington, you'll lose the game. You will lose the game. So you've got to basically take care of the football. And the other thing is the kicker's got to make his kicks. He left 7 points on the board on Thursday Night Football. 2 field goals and an extra point.
Yeah. Well, he hit 2 last week. That was good to see. It was 2 shorter ones, but I think that is one of the biggest under talked about things because that makes you coach the game differently. If you have a 52-yarder, are you more inclined to go for it than take the 52-yarder? Because we know these teams, Sal, are all analytics. And if your analytics say my guy's 0 for 7 from 50 yards or more, do you follow those analytics or do you ignore them?
Definitely follow them, 100%. Not even close. 0 for 7 beyond 50, I'm not going to let them go 0 for 8 and hurt my football team.
All right, well, this is the final Sal Pal Friday of the year. And, of course, it's great to have Sal a part of the show each and every Friday here. Some Mondays, some Thursdays, depending on the schedule. But generally 5 o'clock, a Sal Pal Friday right here on the Sports Bash Live. My final show of the year is on Monday. So this is our final Sal Pal Friday of 2024. But we hope to have a deep playoff run.
Mike Gill, thank you. Thank you to your producer, Josh. Everybody on the Sports Bash, you guys do a great job. It's always great to be with you. And I know people are listening. People give me great feedback about your show and about my segments on your show. Thanks again to Johnny G and the Griner team at Berger Realty in Ocean City, New Jersey. And we'll talk to you next year, Michael.
Sal, appreciate it, man. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
You too, brother.